Welcome to AMZ Unlocked. I am your host, Kimberly Locke, and this week on our podcast, we have got a real treat for you. We have got not one, but two amazing Amazon sellers, Ryan and David from Davan Strategic, and their story is going to inspire you, and their tools are going to help you with your Amazon business. All right, today, welcome to the podcast, Ryan and David from Davan Strategic. I am really excited to get to talk to you guys about a lot of things. You have such a great story. So for those of you who don't know, these are some amazing Amazon sellers. They have already launched, scaled, and exited their business. And along the way, they've started another company. So we want to hear all about it. So welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Kim.
Thanks so much for that
Thanks
intro,
for having
Kim.
us. Yeah.
Oh, thanks for coming. So tell me, so just for our viewers on YouTube, who's Ryan and who's David?
Right. So I'm Dave.
And me with this voice, I'm Ryan.
Okay, excellent. Awesome. And the people on YouTube will be able to see you. So awesome. Cool. So tell me, how did you guys get started into the world of Amazon?
This started about 4 years ago. I was sitting at home one day, just on my computer in the office and scrolling through YouTube. And all of a sudden I got this advertisement for Reliable Education. So Australia-based company, right? And it was Adam Hudson on there, and he's smiling with his big white teeth and saying like, look, this is how you do it. It's super simple. You just find a nice product that you buy for like $2 and you sell it on Amazon for like $20. And the margins are big enough and you can, get rich, and people are doing this already, and it's simple. And it's, it's not easy, but it's simple. And I'm like, hey, this sounds kind of cool. And what I really liked about it is I think it was one of the only advertisements that didn't make any promises or fake promises. Like, he legit said, this is, it's not everyone's going to succeed. Not everyone's going to do really well, but it's, if you follow our steps, it's simple enough, and then you can at least figure it out. So I remember just sitting there and I clicked, okay, book the course. And then I left the office. I told my wife, I'm like, look, I think I just bought this course off YouTube, a couple of $1,000. I think we're going to try starting a business.
I think you pulled me at that point too. And in my head, I'm like, this guy's crazy. But I was like, good for you, Dave. Good for you.
Yeah. And Ryan and I had only been friends at that point for, I think, a year or so, because we're both Canadians, but we're living in Munich. And we actually met online. It was a Facebook group for expats living in Munich. And my wife and I, since we're both from Canada, she missed home a bit. And she's like, I want to meet more Canadians living here. I said, okay, I'm sure that's easy enough. And I just wrote in the group saying like, hey, we're Canadian, we're homesick. Who would love to grab a beer one day? And I think Ryan just heard the word beer and said, I'll do it.
I'm always down for a beer. So we met up and kind of kept in touch and got together on Canada Day over the years. And eventually I ended up moving to a little bit outside of Munich, closer to where Dave lives. I got pushed out of the city a little bit. It's hard to find apartments in Munich. It's kind of a housing bubble here. So I was happy to move a little bit outside the city and only live about 5 minutes away from Dave.
Yeah. So he
that's
would
awesome.
be like, he'd be like at my house and I'd be like, oh, sorry, I don't have time. I got to figure this out, because my product had just gone live, my first product. And I'll never forget it. So it was February. And it was 2020, it went live. So all of 2019, I kind of did the, company setup, product research, just trying to figure stuff out. And then 2020, we went live. And then, a couple months later, COVID hit, hardcore lockdown worldwide. So a bit of a struggle there, and, supply chain struggles. My product wasn't selling well. I mean, we were doing like 1 unit a day. And it was so difficult. And I'm like, I have no idea. And then Ryan's like, let me see if I can help you a bit. So he actually, went home, started Googling stuff. And he's like, hey, I just found out something called canonical URL.
That was the first thing, right? Like, I found a blog post from Amy Weiss talking about canonical URLs. And we didn't know Amy at the time. We didn't know anything about SEO, listing optimization. These are completely new terms for us. But I remember, I talked to Dave and I was like, have you thought about canonical URLs? And he's like, what is that? And I was like, well, my friend, let's dive into this rabbit hole. And that's how we kind of found some more blog posts by Amy and other people in the community, and talking about, listing optimization, title, keyword density, all of this stuff. And we're like, wow, we don't know anything, but we're ready to learn. And that kind of kickstarted this whole
like partnership, I'd say, because, as then COVID really hit and I was grounded. So our background is nothing with e-commerce. So I'm an airline pilot. Ryan's a scientist. So he has a PhD in Microbiology.
Ooh, molecular.
Molecular. I always screw that one up.
So close.
It's an M. They're still little bitty.
Right.
Exactly. They're little bitty. You can't see it. Anyway, he's a doctor, right? So you can trust him. Ryan's a doctor. He never called himself Dr. Ryan. I think he should call himself Dr. Ryan.
I don't, unless I'm booking an airline ticket, because I think it gets me a better chance of getting an upgrade. Then I'll throw the doctor out. But
there you go.
He wants a moment to, oh no, we have a medical emergency. Is there a doctor on board? And he'll be like, me, but it's molecular biology.
I know, they'll be so disappointed.
They're going to be disappointed. Anyway, so yeah, no background in any of this stuff. And I ended up being grounded because COVID, we weren't doing flights. So the airline, they grounded a lot of their pilots for a couple months. And so I'm sitting at home, grounded. Him being in the lab, well, they also weren't allowed to go in. So he's doing home office, but not much to do because of the fact that, you can't do lab experiments at home.
Exactly.
No microscopes.
Multi-million-dollar confocal microscopes here. So yeah.
Yeah. So we said, hey, look, let's make our experiment for the next couple months. How to break the system, figure this out. Let's hack it. And we actually ended up selling that really difficult to sell product at break even. It was really nice. And while we were doing that, we already had ideas on how to launch new products. And we launched some new products for October that year. So we had, 2 other products. And as soon as they hit, we hit live, we saw that our system was working. And I remember I started crying. I'm like, okay, we figured it out. I get it. And then we, got some funding from 8Fig. We said, okay, listen, we're going to have to scale quicker. So our first year we finished with 73,000 revenue, right? So that was the dud product in February and the real products in October. So 73,000 revenue. Our second year, our first full year, we did 3.1 million. And then the year after, which is 2022, we ended up in the first 6 months doing 2.5 million. We were en route to do 5 million. And that's where we exited the business for multi-seven figures.
That is outstanding. Yeah, that is really an accomplishment. So how did all of that, how did Davan Strategic fit into that then?
Right.
That's kind of the next step. That's the new chapter that we're on right now. And it came from us, I think, after 2.5 years of doing e-commerce. At least to me, it felt like it ended really, really quickly. We grew the business and we scaled our brand so quickly, and then we exited it and it felt like all of a sudden it's over. And all of these learnings, everything, the whole journey just came to an abrupt end. And I was hungry for more. And I think Dave took a little bit of time, but eventually he also was hungry for more too. And we said, let's continue to keep our foot in the game and consult people and take all the lessons that we learned and help people.
And the cool thing is a lot of it was actually set up during. So, right, I don't think there was I agree that the selling kind of came to an abrupt end, but, Davan Strategic kind of started earlier in the sense, we always called ourselves Davan because of Dave and Ryan, right? We were playing with different names. We were thinking should be Rivid, but that sounded like a disease. Yeah. So we're like, we're not going to be
especially
Rivid.
Not around COVID times. You don't want to sound anything like that.
Right. Yeah.
Those are your letters though. I'll give you the credit on that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's okay, we'll do Davan. And then, we had our Facebook group called Davan Group, and we had people in there. And what actually started with, and Kim, this is fun. It's how we met, right? Is that Ryan and I, we love working with Excel. And, I remember when we first started working together, we would challenge each other at who's better at Excel. Because remember, we knew each other for a year, just because we got together, had some beers, but we didn't know much about how each other work or work ethic, stuff like that. I mean, we were both pretty smart kids at school back in the day, in high school, top of our classes, independently, both did really well in university. So we felt like we connected on that level, nerding out, but then we were competitive on saying okay, but who's better at Excel? And he'd be like, well, for my curling team, I built this Excel sheet because he's a curler.
My curling scientist who builds Excel sheets.
It doesn't get sexier than that, girls.
My number is.
That is awesome.
So
if I wasn't already married.
Right, yeah. Well, one of us is married. You can guess who. No, so
happy Valentine's.
Happy Valentine's Day. Yeah. So we would compete on who's better at Excel, and we would challenge each other to see who. This is the nerdiest thing ever, but who can think of the craziest formulas on Excel in the background? And then we're like, hey, wait a minute, he's pretty good and I'm pretty good, and then we started working together on Excel. And remember, we had this one product that wasn't doing well. And we literally try to track everything. Like we would look at in the US, because we're selling on the US marketplace, when is payday? Because they get paid every 2 weeks, right? We're like, is there a pattern to when, people get paid to when they buy our products? We would track the weather to be like, if it's colder outside, are people spending more time inside? Like it was ridiculous because we were trying to find patterns. And one of the patterns that Ryan suggested we start looking up is like, when are the sales coming in? What time? And the thing is, on most reports on Amazon, you actually just get the information of when the credit card gets charged, right? Most of them are when the product gets shipped.
Right.
But we wanted to know, when did the credit card get charged? Like when did they actually place the purchase, and not when does it get shipped? Because, that's more important to us. Of what time of the day are the people buying it? So we found one report that did it, but it was a very ugly report, and to get data from it was difficult. So we actually said, can we build an Excel sheet to pull out, the time of the day that this things get purchased, and build a heat map? And that's when we build a sales matrix. And that's the sheet I think, Kimberly, you actually got very early on.
Yes.
I think you're the person that got the sheet.
Yeah.
And
I think I'm a founding owner. So.
Definitely, earliest fan ever. So that's what started Davan, and this fact that we were working on our own Excel sheets. And from that sheet, grew to another. Now we have over 12, 13 different sheets that do really crazy things for Amazon sellers. And what kind of made them nice was the fact that Ryan and I are like just innately different, which is really helpful for our business. So Ryan's like, the molecular guy, very small, focus on the day-to-day. And I'm more of the big thinker, macro. I'm really, really risk averse. I get pretty nervous, and he's overly optimistic with everything. He's like, it'll work out. It'll be okay. And the way we work with Excel is that Ryan, he'll break out this Excel sheet. It'll be epic. There will be so many formulas. And then it'll get lost on his desktop with the other 5,000 icons that are on his desktop. And I'm like, hey, dude, we need that sheet from like 2 weeks ago. Where is it? And he's like, I don't know. I'll build a new one. And it would literally be like, obviously, like, I'll build you a new one. Don't worry. I'm like, no, dude, we gotta keep these. We can't keep spending time.
Definitely the mad scientist whose desk is covered in mountains of paper. But if you ask me for that one paper, I know where to find it. But sometimes I do throw papers away. So
it sometimes gets thrown in the trash.
Yeah. Innate, like Dave said, innately different. And that hits on kind of another reason, I think, why we were able to be as successful as we were on Amazon. And that's because we complement each other so well, our skill sets. Like Dave said, I'm more micro. I love to be in Seller Central every day, looking at the tiniest metrics, getting like a gut feeling. How's everything going today? What can we do on Seller Central or micro level to increase sales today? And Dave is more thinking big picture, long term. What can we do to, grow our bottom line, months into the future? And what can we do for IP and copyright and product opportunities? And so we end up complementing each other really well, just because we love doing exact opposite things.
Yeah.
That
is a great partnership.
Yeah. And I think, most people, and before doing this, if I were to get in a business with someone, I would have tried to look for someone like me, because I'd be like, I want to work with someone who has a personality like myself, so we get along really well and everything's kumbaya. And what I've learned is that's at least from what I've seen, that's the opposite of what you need. You need someone who has a skill set that is completely different to yours, where you still have mutual respect and you work together well, but the things that I hate doing, Dave loves, and vice versa. So
yeah, absolutely. I think we all came through reliable education initially. And I think one of the big lessons that I took away from that is that as an entrepreneur, you really are the conductor of the orchestra. You need to know how to do all of the parts, but that doesn't mean you have to do all of the parts. Once you understand, you just need to know so you can understand what's happening. So when you're seeing that, that spreadsheet, you understand what those numbers all mean. So then you can outsource. And one of the great things I've done is, I love the numbers, but I don't have the time or the patience to get into Seller Central like you do. But I love being able to pull that information out and put it into my sales matrix. And in just in a few seconds, it's like, okay, that's how we're doing. So
that's where like my brain came into the partnership. I said, look, we're not going to have time to always do this, right? Like, I know you love being in there, but let's build a tool, that Excel sheet that doesn't get lost on the desktop. And I honestly think the kind of way I like convinced it to happen was saying, let's make them so pretty that we could actually share them with the world. Because I think when you do something for yourself, it's okay if it's quick, But if we do something that's extremely pretty and you're proud to share it, well, then you might actually start sharing it. And that's what happened. We started sharing it with our mastermind. They loved it. We started sharing it with some people in Reliable Education. They loved it. And, I think I even remember asking you, was like, hey, Kimberly, do you think we could sell these? Like, do you think there's enough value in these? And you said, you know what? Honestly, there is, because you save us so much time. People like numbers and they like data, but it's so time consuming to filter out these raw, ugly reports from Amazon to get real actionable, things to do from it. And our focus has always been, we build an Excel sheet where we can take action on that information.
Yeah, you see so many. I think we were getting tired of logging into several, seller dashboards and other sheets that just throw data in your face, and it's beautifully presented, but you're struggling to find the actionable points. You're like, that's all nice. I can see graphs and numbers, but what do I do with this? And Dave and I always build sheets with clear, actionable items that you might not think about. Like this, the point of the sales matrix and showing what days and what times your sales are coming through is potentially to adjust your PPC strategy to only run PPC during the hottest, times of day for you. And I think that's going to become more attractive. There's talk about Amazon getting into day partying and stuff. So this could be really an important thing to do. So yeah, and now our newest sheet that we've been, it's been a labor of love for the past 4 or 5 months, is a sheet called Stock Flow, where it's based off a sheet that Dave and I used to run our own brand. And it was, we called it the life force at that point, because it was really like the life force of our entire business. It handled our cash flow, it handled our inventory and stock, and how that moved from
color ratio for the variations, like parentage variations, right?
Breakdown of SKU daily sales. So it was really, it wasn't as pretty. Like, we knew we were going to keep this sheet internal, but at some point someone asked, oh, could you build me this sheet for my brand? And we're like, could we? Like, it felt like such a personalized sheet just for our own brand. And we thought for a while about, can we kind of generalize this sheet so that anybody could use it? And I think once we had that seed in our mind, we weren't going to pass down that challenge. And so the next,
and that's really hard to do, right? Like, to think of every use case scenario. So like when we were working with Amy Weiss a bit with one of her brands, and she has a lot of things that, because she lives in, Texas, she does a lot of FBM, fulfilled by merchant. And we're like, okay, cool. So we have some sellers that do FBA and FBM, right? We have some sellers that store stuff, stateside, some at a 3PL, some at only Amazon, stuff like that. So we really had to think of all use cases. And the good thing is, because we were working with so many different brands, by that point, we had a lot of data sets from them. And we said, okay. And then we really sat down and tackled it and said, okay, let's build this. We call it now the stock flow. And it's because a lot of people in the space, they do talk about, cash flow is important, PPC is important. But one thing they don't talk about enough, in my opinion, is inventory management being just as important, because your stock flow generates your cash flow.
100%.
Right? I mean, without your inventory, and so many sellers run out of stock. And what we just recently saw, right? So we were doing this audit on this girl on her brand that we're working with now. And, we just plugged in her numbers into our stock flow. And within 5 to 10 minutes, we were able to see some holes. And we said, listen, if you trust us, do the following. Turn off your PPC on this product and raise the price by $3 a unit. And she's like, why? I'm like, I'm going to save you $2,000 in the next 20 days. And she's like, okay, really? I'm like, yeah, because by the time you get back in stock, you're going to run out of stock before you can replenish it, essentially. You're not done manufacturing it by the time it reaches it. And, that's a quick insight that our tool allowed us to see. Literally, we just plugged it in. It took us 5 minutes and we saw that insight right away, and saved her $2,000. So that was really exciting for us.
Yeah.
So I cannot wait to dive into this sheet, but I have to tell you, one of my absolute outside of sales matrix, I cannot operate without your COGS worksheet.
Right.
That is, I mean, and that's where it gets, like, at the very foundation. If anyone is starting out in this business, you have to know your COGS. And I love the way, because I've seen it with other sellers that I've talked to when I was working with a software company and dealing with sellers. And, yours takes into account and allows you to plug in every single facet of costs, because people will forget tariffs, and then they'll get hit with tariffs. And it's like, wow, you no longer have a profit margin. You're at a loss. So being able to use that at the very beginning is just like, you can't operate without that.
Right. Yeah, no, thanks. And that came from us too, right? Like, when we started, when I think a lot of Amazon sellers, when you launch a company, like remember, a lot of people are like, I'm launching a product. It's not like you're launching a company, right? And the thing is, your company starts with one product. So unfortunately, your first product has to cover all the costs of your company, not just itself. And that's really hard thing to do. And once you grow several products, well, then they can all share the overhead costs. But initially, if you're saying, look, I'm taking a $10,000 investment that I have or $10,000 savings, and I want to be successful on Amazon, you really have to realize that that first $10,000 has to carry the weight of the company. And there's a lot of overhead costs that people forget.
Oh yeah, like to your point, Kimberly, like that's I can't tell you how many people I've asked their landed cogs, and they kind of get, it's a wishy-washy answer. They kind of know, they kind of don't, and they ballpark it. And it's like, Dave and I, like for us, we needed to know it down to the penny. And then even then we still, this was Dave being cautious. We still would like round it up to the next, 50-cent mark.
I always had a safety
case.
margin.
Just a safety margin. But all of these extra costs, like you mentioned, like product inspections, shipping, everything until your product is manufactured and gets to FBA. Every penny needs to be accounted for in the landed cogs. And then you can know your profitability easily. You can do the calculations, but people just forget costs and throw it into overhead, and it adds up quickly.
I just wanted to say the nice thing about the sheet, to be honest, like the landed cogs one, is the fact that it allows you to kind of forecast, if you do a reorder, how much is the landed cogs of that product? Because some of that overhead cost was already absorbed with your first round, right? So if you do a factory audit before you start working with a manufacturer, well, you know what? That cost is going to be associated to your first round, but the second time you may not need it. Or it'll allow you to say, hey, if I order more quantity and my above the MOQ, and now my cost per unit goes down, well, it allows you to put that in, and you can then say, okay, you know what? I understand that the first round, we're not going to be profitable, but I'm okay with that as a seller. But at least you're making an educated decision. Like, this is based on real numbers. And a lot of people are like, it doesn't matter if you're not profitable the first time. And it's like, yeah, but based on what, right? Which numbers are you using to make that decision?
Exactly. And that's exactly what I was going to say, is I love the fact that all in one sheet, I can say I have the whole life cycle of my product going through all the orders that I've made. I'm on my third order, about to make my fourth order for, my main hero product. And it's like, I can see the progression of the costs and how the profits have increased, through lots of different things. So yeah, it's fantastic. So, and being able to keep it all in one place, it's all nice and neat.
And it's so funny that you said all in one place. And that also came from us scaling so quickly, right? So like, I mean, when you go from, your first year, 73,000, and that's really just a couple months, but 73,000, and you're running a $5 million company in 3 years, you need systems in place. You have to be extremely organized to be able to scale that quick, because your decision-making has to happen quicker, right? You're placing purchase orders for $200,000 at a time. And, you want to make sure that your numbers are accurate. And we always said we need a system to keep all our numbers in one place, that we can easily recognize it, especially if working as a team. If he works on something, I got to look at the numbers and know what he's doing. If we save a file on our computer, we have a naming system for our computer, like our files. So with a number, and there's different chapters, and it looks like an operations manual for the Airbus 350 I fly, right? So like, I'm like, we're going to go aviation on this. We're going to do it very organized, because in this way, I know like, okay, everything to do with Amazon Ops is going to be in chapter 5. And then we go into that folder, and then based on that, it's based on PPC, logistics, inventory, whatever. And I can go into the different subfolders and find it right away, even if you didn't tell me where you saved it. And I think it's that kind of organization that we built into every single one of our sheets, and including the stock flow now. We realized that a lot of people will have a Google sheet with their 3PL. They'll have, they'll trust Amazon numbers that, they just send it to Amazon and never look at it again. And we said, let's take all those numbers and put them in one place, so people just have to open that, and they can easily outsource it if they want to a VA. Let them manage it for you using our tool. And it really provides a clear insight to some sellers.
Yeah, I can't wait to dive into stock flow. So that is definitely on my to-do list for this week, to get into that one. So I've just got my sales matrix updated for the new year. So I'm super excited about that too. So yeah, it's awesome. So I love your story, and I love how you guys met over beers. And by the way, if you're ever in Perth, I understand the whole expat thing, being, an American living in Australia. So yeah, we do have to congregate. So yeah, if you're ever in Perth, let's definitely go for that beer. But guys, thank you so much. And I just wanted to let everyone know that David and Ryan have been kind enough to offer a very generous 15% discount to anyone who purchases through the links in the description. So you'll find the link in the description of the podcast and of the YouTube video. And if you can't find it, just come to the channel and shoot me an email and I will make sure that you get a hold of that.
Yeah, sounds good. And we'd love to have anyone join our Facebook group. It's a small, intimate group. We do a free Davan exchange about once a month where we just, jump on a Zoom call with different sellers. And it's a networking opportunity, not just for us, or not just for, the people joining, but also for us. So, we exchange ideas, struggles, strategies, rumors that we might have heard. And it's just like a little campfire session, essentially, about once a month.
Perfect.
Absolutely
I will put
free,
the link
so
to the
just
group.
come say hi.
Yeah, I'll put the link to the group in the description as well.
Cool. No, really excited.
Thanks so much, Kim.
Oh, thank you guys. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. And are you, just one last question, are you guys going to be launching a new Amazon brand, or are you completely focused on Davan?
Such an exciting question. So we have a lot of, like Ryan was saying, after we sold, he was maybe ready. I wanted to take a bit of time off with my family and, just focus on flying a bit more, but, got the bug really quickly after. And we actually have a couple exciting, businesses set up. So Davan is just one of them. That's our consulting and helping and, giving back. We're working with another company right now, helping them, develop a really nice software for sellers. So, they're picking our brains. We're going to be, sharing a lot of seller insights through that company as well. We can't disclose it just yet, but that's really exciting for us working with, they're a big company. So it's going to be really, really fun. And at the same time, we're going to partner up with a third seller. So Davan is actually going to expand a little bit. It's going to be a trio soon. And, we're going to dive into his brand with them. So we're doing the merger acquisition process right now. We're buying into his brand. And he's currently at 7 figures by himself. And we think that the three of us can take it to 8 figures within the next 2 years. And we're going to be documenting the journey a little bit along the way of how we do that. We're really going to focus heavily also on retail, global expansion, lots of product development. Now that we're 3 people, I think we'll be able to do it using our systems. And then we also want to do something on the side, which is really fun, is we're actually, this is still in the planning stage, so maybe a bit early, but hey, you're also the first person to ever use our Excel sheet. So might as well share the news with you first, right? We're looking at building an alliance of sellers that are essentially going to come together under a portfolio, different than the aggregator model where, they buy off the different brands. We say, look, let's team up, because I think what a lot of people don't realize is that when you go to exit a company, the multiples right now, maybe they're a bit down, but let's say on average 3 to 4x, of your last 12 months, trailing 12 months SD. So if you actually had a higher revenue pool with some diversification and you go to exit, you can get 6, 7x, right? So just by getting people together and saying, let's make a pool and let's sell that entire group as a portfolio, you're looking at higher multiples. So everyone just wins more. And we said, because we're going to grow this company that we're going into to 8 figures, along the way, why don't we try to find people that think like us, that have brands that are powerful, that fit this portfolio, and build an alliance so that in 3 to 5 years, when we go to exit again, we're looking at multiples of, 6, 7, 8x.
That is super exciting. And what a really creative solution to the situation that the aggregator system has gotten into. That's, it has taken a bit of a hit. So that is super exciting. I can't wait. I'm in the Facebook group, so I'm sure I will hear all about it. Definitely. That is exciting. So well done, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Kim.
All right. Well, thank you both very much for taking the time. I know it's very early in the morning for you, but thank you very much for joining the podcast. And I'm sure we will have you back again. As you continue on in your journey, I'm sure you will have other great stories to share. So I'd love to have you back again.
Yeah, definitely.
Anytime.
All right. Fantastic. Thanks, guys.
Ciao.